What is up, guys? PK here, and today we're gonna do something groundbreaking. We're making the actual first ever actually quick build guide. I know, it's amazing. Yo, what is up, guys? PK here, and today's quick build guide isn't gonna be that different from all the other quick build guides. It's just that the single only interesting piece of gameplay that I had was a true solo Cataclysm on Fort Braxenbrücke, and that was just way too long to include here. And I had a couple of games the other day on Cata, but they were like either on terrible ping or I had input issues, and like they were boring games that weren't interesting to watch, and so there wasn't much to talk about. And so instead I thought, let's try something new, let's cut out the gameplay, see what it does to the view numbers, who knows. But other than that, it's pretty much going to be the same as always, so let's get to it. So, first things first, let's take a look at some of the Waystalker's base metrics. She has a health pool of 100 to 120 health, depending on the strength of the property on your necklace. Her base career ability cooldown is a total of 80 seconds or 1 minute and 20 seconds, but can be reduced below a minute with talents and properties, and it refreshes a total of 0.35 seconds per enemy hit, which as always includes cleaved minions for melee attacks, but not for ranged attacks. And lastly, she gains a total of 0.3 seconds per damage taken. An example would be that you get overheaded by a storm vermin, you take exactly 100 damage, and your career ability cooldown is instantaneously reduced by exactly 30 seconds. Alright, so here we are in the keep on the Waystalker. First things first, let's talk about talents. Obviously, in terms of the temporary HP talents, we got Reef Bond, melee critical strikes and headshots restore 2 temporary HP. We got Dryad's Thirst, that's a temporary HP based off amount of enemies hit, which is the most consistent overall. And then of course, as always, we have Heal Share. Now, 90% of the time you're going to be going for Dryad's Thirst, so let's pick that up. For level 10, you got Bloodshot. That is by far the best talent in the level 10 range, but let's just quickly gloss over the two others. Serrated Shots, regular arrows, causes enemies to bleed for extra damage. Some people like to use this, especially on the Swiftbow. And then you got Drakira's Alacrity, ranged headshots, increases attack speed by 15% for 5 seconds, which isn't bad in of itself. It's just that they're both overshadowed by Bloodshot. For level 15, we got Mainstay, Assassin, and Enhanced Power. Now here you're pretty much always going to be getting either Assassin or Enhanced Power. Now Enhanced Power obviously hits better range breakpoints, and depending on which weapon, ranged weapon you end up using, sometimes I will be going for Assassin, most of the time I will be going for Enhanced Power, and I'll pretty much never be going for Mainstay, not because Mainstay is necessarily bad, but because Assassin, in my opinion, is pretty much, in nearly every scenario, Assassin is just better than Mainstay or Smiter. So whenever you have the option of Assassin, you're pretty much always going to be going for that over Smiter, Mainstay, Bulwark, so on and so forth. But most of the time here you are going to be going for Enhanced Power. For level 20, we got Isha's Embrace, increased Kirilling's health regenerated from Amaranthi, not going to be going for that. We got Spirit Arrows, that's pretty much what we're going to be going for, and you got Rejuvenating Locust, which makes the healing also affect the rest of the party, but you're pretty much always going to be going for Spirit Arrows here. It reduces the cooldown of your ultimate by 5%, which is equivalent to 4 seconds per tick. That means every 10 seconds that passes, you get a free 4 seconds cut off your ultimate ability. Then we have level 25, Fervent Huntress, killing a special or elite increases movement speed by 15% for 10 seconds. Not a bad talent in of itself, but slightly overshadowed by a certain other talent. Then we got Ricochet. This is a hilarious meme talent, but there's pretty much zero viable competitive scenarios where you're going to be going for it, although it is fun as hell, especially with javelins. It's not really that good. Then we have Ashrai Focus, which is what you're going to be going for most of the time. It just reduces the cooldown of your ultimate ability by 20%, which is equivalent to 16 seconds, just cut straight off your ultimate ability. It's a hard cut, so it's not like it increases the rate, it's just a hard cut of 20%. And then of course we get to the ultimate talents. Now how does her ultimate work first? That's relevant to talk about first, and let's just look at her passives as well. She has an increased ammo capacity of 100%, which does not apply to a weapon such as the Moonfire Bow. Then we have the Waywatcher's Bow, which gives her double effective range. What effective range is referring to is the damage drop off at long ranges, and so here the damage doesn't start to drop off until double the range of the default. So you can shoot stuff that's twice as far away before there's a drop in the damage. And then we of course have the range zoom, which you can activate by using the weapon special, which can double zoom on a longbow, for example, but it's very rare that I actually use that, if I'm being perfectly honest. Then of course she has the passive Amaranthi, which regenerates 3 health every 10 seconds when below half health. It's also worth noting that Spirit Arrows works even when you're not under half health, so you don't need to be below half health for Spirit Arrows to actually function. Then we got True Shot Volley, which is her ultimate ability. Without any ultimate sort of talent, she just shoots these 3 arrows, boom, as such. As you can see, there are 3 arrows there, and they have homing missile functions, right? So if I shoot up here and there are only minions down there, they will get attracted to the head of the enemies in question. You can, as with other targeting ultis, if you hold down your ultimate ability for a little while, you can see when he's red, even if I were to like point it somewhere else, if I were to do like that and do like this, right, then it's gonna go for the red one first. So that is a way of targeting an intentional enemy. Now, as for the ultimate talent here, first we got Piercing Shot. Now, Piercing Shot is a talent that has a very, very high skill requirement, but also a very, very high reward if you can use it well. I think the best case example here is New Type, a streamer on Twitch. For those of you that don't know, you should go follow him. He's a great guy, and I think he's probably one of the people I've seen use this talent to the greatest effect. Now, what it does is essentially it changes your ultimate into a single sort of high armor damage shot that also has 100% cooldown reduction if and only if you manage to get a headshot through. Now, usually when you're using this talent, which is obviously great for boss damage, it's great for killing chaos patrols, when you have this talent, there's not much sort of point in using Azrai Focus, so you might be going for Fervent Huntress, and possibly even Drakira's Alacrity, right? Ranged headshots increase your attack speed. What that would do is essentially also increase your capacity for spam shooting, right? So, not necessarily, but that would be one way to go about it, at least. Then we got the Loaded Bow. Now, the Loaded Bow essentially just takes the 3 arrows you were shooting before and turns it into 4 arrows. You can see here, if I were to do like /clear, if I were to do like this, you can see 4 damage numbers appeared, whereas without it, 3 damage numbers appeared. So it essentially adds 33% to your ultimate by giving you an extra arrow. Lastly, we got Kuno's Reward. Killing a special or elite enemy with True Shot Volley restores 30% ammunition, and that's per elite or special that you kill. Now, a couple of important things to note here. So let's say there's only 1 enemy minion here. 10 shots, right? 30%. That's about right. But if I were to have 3 enemy minions, and I have 3 arrows by default, boom, I pretty much get my maximum amount of ammo back. And it's important to note that this also works, oddly enough, with the Moonfire Bow, which is kind of strange when you think about it, because for this to work, which is essentially ammunition, then in theory your ammo capacity should also work, right? That, like, the logic would go that if one of them works, both, like, it should be both or neither, right? That's not the case though. You don't get extra shots, as you can see here. You don't get any extra shots with the Moonfire Bow just because you're on the Waystalker. However, if you were to kill 3 of these, it does remove all of your Moonfire overcharge, whatever you want to call it, making that a pretty viable combination. But there's one talent I didn't really mention, that I didn't really talk too much about, and that's Bloodshot. Now, Bloodshot is, in my opinion, the single most OP talent that the Waystalker has. Now, I'm not entirely sure if what I'm about to mention is a bug or if it's intentional. Now, this is an effect that's been in place since, I believe, since the Sister of the Thorn was implemented. But let's just take a look at what the talent is supposed to do, right? So you get a melee kill, which for the next 10 seconds gives you a passive buff. Now, as you can see, once you have the passive buff, you get a single free cast of double projectiles, right? Now, the reason I got several there. I have a mod that's bugging me out, but that's not how it's supposed to work, right? So essentially you get a single double throw as such, right? A single, and then that should remove the actual buff, and that is how it works on the official realm. So you get a single one of these throws with double projectiles, and the buff is then consumed, and then you'd have to kill another enemy in order to take another shot with another extra projectile. But ever since the Sister of the Thorn update, there's been something extra in play that I want to talk about. Okay, so let's clear up the chat here. Okay, so as you can see here, the normal ultimate, right? 3 damage numbers. Okay, loaded bow, 4 damage numbers. Okay, bloodshot and loaded bow, 8 damage numbers. Yeah, I don't know if that's supposed to work that way. That hasn't been the case pre-Sister of the Thorn, but that's how it currently works on the official realm as well. And as I said, I'm not entirely sure if this is intentional or a bug, because I believe Fat Shark knows about it, because this is originally something I saw on the Reddit. So I'm honestly not sure if this is intentional or not, but currently at least, what you can do with this is essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And like, you could do that on Kata. Like, let's find some storm remnants here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom. Boom. So yeah, that's possible. Now, does that mean, because the thing is, if you don't have loaded bow, for example, and you test the same effect, then it's obviously 6 arrows, right? Now, whether or not it's worth it to go for the loaded bow, I'm not entirely sure it is, but I would also say it depends on your ranged weapons. That's the next thing we're going to talk about. Melee weapons, I'm not going to talk too much about melee weapons, because I feel like at the end of the day, that's whatever you're comfortable with. I feel like I've covered pretty much every weapon that the elf has, melee-wise. I would be going for either sword and dagger, or more defensively, the spear. You could also be going for the dual swords, and then use your ranged weapon as sort of the armor damage. I know a lot of people like to use the glaive, and I would say that if you enjoy using the glaive, go ahead and use the glaive. Like there's nothing wrong with that. It is an enjoyable weapon. It was essentially my first favorite weapon on the elf. That being said, it's not very strong. Like, it is not competitive. It's viable, but it's not competitive, right? So I just want you to know that. But that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with using the glaive. If you can get it to work, go right ahead. Because as I said, it's really a fun weapon. But that's really all I have to say melee-wise. As long as you have a combination where you're guaranteed to have both infantry damage and armor damage, then as long as you have that combination in your repertoire of weapons, then you're good to go, right? As for ranged weapons, I would say there are 4 weapons to use. Now, you might be thinking, but ThePartyKnife. But ThePartyKnife, as for the Waystalker, she can only use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranged weapons. That's correct. And I'd say 4 of them are competitive, 1 of them is only viable. And I'd say the one that's only viable is the Swiftbow. The Swiftbow build is not amazing. I'm not hating on the Swiftbow, but it's not the greatest. I would say if you have all the DLCs, then you're going to be going one of 2 ways. You're going to be going either for the Javelin, or you're going to be going for the Moonfire Bow. If you don't have the DLC weapons, then you're going to be going for either the Longbow, or you're going to be going for the Hagbane Shortbow. Now, something I want to teach you guys real quick with the Hagbane Shortbow and the Moonfire Bow, at least momentarily. But before we get to that, let's just talk about whether Kurna's Reward is better than Loaded Bow. Because I would say even with Bloodshot, even when we take into consideration the fact that we can get an 8 arrow ulti with Loaded Bow, I still think Kurna's Reward is better, especially if you're using the Moonfire Bow. Because essentially what you're trading, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the trade-off is between killing, having 2 extra arrows, or getting an extra 4 Moonfire shots off, right? And potentially even more than 4, right? Because a single ulti removes all your charges. So really the question is 2 arrows extra on your ultimate worth more than a full volley of Moonfire Bow? And I'd say it's not. I don't think it is. I think the full volley of Moonfire is more valuable, and it can also be applied more precisely, so to speak. So by resetting, like, this allows you to essentially spam your Moonfire, then cast an ulti, right? Assuming there's more than you know, cast an ulti, and then you're all set up again, right? And some of these shots might even end up being double shots because you again still have that passive. Ooh, that talent, sorry, right? So for that reason, I would say overall, Kuno's Reward is the better talent here, which leaves us in a situation where you're either going to be going for the piercing shot build, which is a little bit different, or you're going to be going for the Kuno's Reward build. In any case, I'd say piercing shot you'd probably be combining with Drakira's Alacrity, and bloodshot you'd probably be combining with Kuno's Reward and Azrai Focus, whereas the piercing shot you might be going for like this, and the Kuno's Reward you'd probably be going like this. So those would be the two ways I would structure the build. Now, moving on to the ranged weapon here, there's something I want to talk about regarding the Hagbane Shortbow and the Moonfire Bow. Now, something you can do with the Hagbane Shortbow, now I believe I've heard this referred to as finger rolling. Now, what is finger rolling? Well, it's a method for shooting faster. Now, you guys have obviously seen my ranged mastery mechanics guide, and if you haven't, you should. Because there's a lot of useful tips in there, but here is one that I did not mention, I believe, in that video. And that's finger rolling. Now, what is finger rolling? It's a method for shooting faster, right? If I just hold right click and left click, this is my attack speed. And you obviously, with the Hagbane Shortbow, you want to be getting the sort of the charged shots off, right? So you want to be doing charged shots. But as you can see, I'm not shooting very fast, right? Now, what finger rolling is essentially, it's a technique on the mouse where after taking a shot, right, you essentially reset the animation by letting go of the aiming button, right, and reapplying the aiming. So you're aiming, then you're shooting, then you let go of the aiming, click the aim again, the aim being the right mouse button, and then shoot, right? So you're constantly sort of rolling your fingers, right mouse button, left mouse button, right mouse button, left mouse button. Now, the reason it's called finger rolling is because you're essentially holding down the right mouse button. The moment you take a shot, you let go of the right mouse button as you're clicking the left mouse button, and then the moment you've clicked the left mouse button, then you reapply the aim on the right mouse button. And it should look something like that, right? So as you can see, if I'm just dragging, this is my attack speed, whereas if I'm finger rolling, it should look something like this. You see, clearly you're shooting faster. Now, as for the Moonfire Bow, I've already talked to you guys about this, but I thought it was worth a repeat in the mentioning, and it's that you're pretty much always, with the Moonfire Bow, going for armory. You're pretty much always going for this shot right here, because it deals the same amount of single target damage as this shot here, but it costs less overcharge. So you're essentially going to be doing the same finger rolling, but with the Moonfire Bow, right? That allows you to shoot faster, and it also allows you to get off more shots quicker. So essentially you're going to get more single target value by doing such. Now, that means I can shoot an elite that quickly, and it's going to die, you see? Let's just do it like this. See, that was a lot faster than, like, you know, the full dragging. Just boom, and it's gonna die. Now, as for the actual build, I believe what I like to do is Armored Skaven Barrage and Chaos Attack Speed Decanter. This allows you to pretty much one-shot every single elite in the game, with the exception of Beastigores and Chaos Warriors. Oh yeah, and by the way, it's a one-shot body shot we're talking about, right? So you can one-shot body shot anything in the game other than Chaos Warriors and Beastigores. You can also one-shot body shot every special in the game, including Stranglers. And you can two-shot body shot Beastigores. So you're pretty much set, right? You're pretty good to go. And yeah. As for the rest of the build, it's pretty standard. Health, block cost reduction, crit chance, block cost reduction, swift slaying, crit chance, stamina recovery, shrapnel. Obviously, you'd switch that with crit resistance if you were doing legend. And yeah, you could also, by the way, one interesting thing, you could also be going for concoction here, I would say. especially considering the whole Bloodshot Kurna's Reward thing. That's going to allow you to get up a couple of really good ultis that are doubled up, hopefully. So yeah, but I'll leave that to your preferences. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you like this format better. It's a little bit quicker. It's essentially the same thing, right? It's just that there was no commentary, so the video is going to be shorter. Let's see what that does for the views. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, learned something new. And as always, I love you guys. Stay awesome. Peace out.